Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses here today to talk about this very, very important topic about our digital assets and the importance really of bringing clarity to this industry. While the digital asset industry has grown substantially over this past decade, much of the industry is unexplored by many parts of our nation for various reasons, as you guys know. Although many have begun to embrace the new technology, it is critical in my mind that we work to break the barriers that are here in Congress and the uncertainty that's out in the industry to make it more accessible and, frankly, again, to bring certainty to the industry with respect to taxation laws as it relates to our subcommittee responsibilities. Two ways I think we can improve accessibility is to bring that predictability to the market and do a better job really of explaining just how broad the use cases are for technologies so that folks do not fear it. I want to focus on the idea of staking today. Those are going to be my questions. It's been brought up a couple of times here. I think congressional action is needed to increase clarity for the taxpayer out there. Staking allows users, as you guys have described, to hold and preserve those assets for a certain period of time in a designated wallet in an effort to earn rewards and validate transaction. It's a vast and growing segment of the digital economy and a win-win method of participating in the digital currency for users, and frankly, it keeps out fraudulent users, as many of you have said. Ms. Riley, you said in your opening statement, quote, despite the importance of staking, the code has not been updated to address staking, and existing sub-regulatory guidance is insufficient to address all of the important tax issues implicated by staking. Ms. Mangiero, by your testimony, I take it you agree with that. Is that true?
That's true.
How should staking activity be addressed in the tax code, in your opinion? And then, Ms. Riley, I'll come to you for that question.
Thank you for the question, Congressman. I think the biggest issue is sourcing at this time, particularly if we're looking to keep more business onshore. As of right now, there's no guidance on how staking is sourced, which is requiring advisors to look at things like where are the servers, where are the people working on them. These are easily manipulatable factors. By providing clarity such as sourcing to the recipient, it would put U.S. staking providers on the same level as non-U.S. staking providers in that there wouldn't be any difference in like withholding for foreign investors.
Ms. Mangiero, aside from the idea of sourcing, the idea of timing seems also to be very important too. When should staking activities be taxed? Should they be taxed, as Mr. Sato said, about the analogy of growing crops as a farmer does, or when it's sold at the end of the production?
Thank you. I would agree with what Mr. Sato said. I think that these staking rewards should be taxed at the time of sale or disposition, not at the time of creation. People have used crops as an example. Sometimes I use other ones like when you write a book, you're not taxed when you finish it, right? You're taxed when you sell it. When you bake a loaf of bread, you're not taxed when it comes out of the oven. You're taxed when you sell it. Same idea here. We want this to be subject to the same tax treatment as all newly created property.
And as I understand it right now, as it works, the validator puts in this stake into a transaction, and then they may get a reward at the end as they grow this crop, but if the transaction is validated. But if it's not, they could actually lose it. They could see some of that reward slashed. I think that's the term that's used. And so at that point, though, if they have grown it, if a transaction's been validated and they've received a stake as a result of putting their initial digital asset in, they're taxed at the ordinary income at that point. And then later when they sell it, they're taxed again at a capital gains rate. Is that currently how that transaction is formed?
That's correct. There's a carrot and a stick, right? So when you stake your tokens, you lock them in order to validate these transactions. If you act honestly, you're rewarded with new tokens. If you validate a transaction that's inaccurate, or most often this happens because validators go offline, then you're what's called slash, and that would result in the loss of tokens. Slashing is very rare, but it does incentivize good behavior.
So Ms. Riley identified the need for us to bring clarity on sourcing. We've talked about timing. Ms. Mangiero, Mr. Sato, you mentioned also the idea of de minimis. I want to ask, in the area of staking, do we need a de minimis exception, or should we not even worry about that in this particular part of the digital asset world?
I think we need a de minimis exception. I don't think it needs to be specifically applicable to staking. I think what's relevant here is that the individual users who are sending transactions which the stakers are validating. A lot of times you have to also pay a very small fee that can be like a fraction of a cent. And that's where I think a de minimis exception would be extremely important, because I can just tell you from personal experience, you rack up a lot of those transactions. Just like I said, every time you send a payment, you're going to be paying a small native fee to those stakers, and simplifying that process for the individual users is really important.
Yeah, very complicated area here, but we've got to bring certainty so that America leads with innovation and investment. We want to be that leader. We want to see it not just go from 50 million since 2019 to 600 billion, but we want to see it grow even more. We want the transactions here domestically rather than internationally. I appreciate each one of you and your testimony today, and I yield back.